Okay, so first assignment, hello world. This is A1. So in Canvas, you'll see that I have modules set up. So we're going to start with module 1. Module 1, each module looks like this. It's got the dates for the module, the objective, a checklist of things you need to do. The reading will open up a link to an online textbook. This is the only textbook for the class. If you are the kind of person who likes to hold a paper book in your hand, you can buy this on Amazon for like $27 or something like that. I made it as cheap as I could. I wrote it so that my students didn't have to buy an $800 textbook. You're welcome. But you don't have to buy a textbook at all. You can just use the online version. If you love the feel of paper in your hand, I understand. So that's available for you. But all of the text is the same for the textbook. Okay, so there it is. Each module will have a link to that module's text. It will also have links to videos. Now, if you'll notice, this one already has videos. And you can see it says previous term. So this is from last fall. This is the video from last fall. This spring, I will upload videos. As soon as I start uploading videos from this term, then it will say so. So you can pay attention to that. If you want to work ahead, you're always welcome to look at the videos from last fall. They'll be pretty close to the same, not necessarily identical. Okay, things like due dates and that sort of thing will be different, but it's the same kind of material. So you can always look at previous term videos. Okay, if there are files that you need for that class, there are sample files, sample code and things like that there. And then, of course, assignments. Okay, S1 is Sandbox 1, A1 is Assignment 1. The Sandbox assignments are generally good if you're new to programming. Okay, so if you're new to programming, new to the concepts, they are going to walk you through a lot of step-by-step activities. So this one has you go to an online Python code creator, and it gives you specific instructions on what to type and what you should see. A lot of times I will ask you to do something creative as part of a sandbox. And then when you turn in a sandbox, what you will do is you'll take a screenshot. So you can see this is the online Python editor here. So this person typed the code and they ran the code. They can see the results down here. Then they took a screenshot and post it. And that's how you get credit. If you do something on a sandbox, you're going to get credit. It's 1 point. I just want you to do something. Okay, so sandboxes are, I'm not going to judge you harshly. A lot of times as we get further into the class, looking at other people's posts in the sandbox is going to be real interesting because again, there's a creative element to most of these. So you're going to see what other people did, how they wrote their code, what it looks like, and you can learn from that. So that's kind of a nice thing to do. So the other thing is the Hello World assignment. Now this is a traditional assignment in Canvas, so you have to submit a file. So you're going to see the challenge, constraints, it's going to give you the instructions, okay? Make sure you pay attention to the constraints because that gives you limitations to that particular assignment. So A1, Hello World, I'm going to actually show you how to do it, and I'm going to submit it right now. So I'm going to change my view to student view. So this is more along the lines of what you're seeing in there. And I'm going to open up PyCharm. Doing good on time. Okay. So we don't want that much code. I'm going to create a new file. And so you are not going to see all these files and things over here on the left-hand side? You're not going to have that. That's my garbage. Okay, I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to old programming projects. but I also keep my projects from previous semesters because I like to go back and look at what I did. So if you click on, or you right click on Python project up here. Okay, so that's the first thing. You're going to right click, you're going to choose new, and you're going to choose Python file. Okay, so you can do this with me. You can just sort of make notes, or you can just memorize it. Whatever works for you based on how you learn best. So I'm going to choose new and then Python file, and then it's going to ask me to name my file in this little box here. Highly recommend. If you don't listen to me, I get to say I told you so later when you name something weird and it messes something up. Highly recommend for this class that you use the naming convention of the assignment number. So I'm going to say A1.py. Okay, that already exists. Watch this. I'm going to delete it, and then it'll let me. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do that again. New Python file A1.py. Okay, now you can see on the tab up at the top, it says A1.py, and now I've got nothing but a blank screen and a cursor flashing to a number 1. That means that I'm on line number 1. As I write more code, it will keep track of the line numbers. That's useful because then when you submit your file to me and something is wrong, I have an error, I can say, look on line 36. And then you can use that as a reference. So you can find what I'm talking about. All I'm going to do for assignment 1 is the following. Print, and then I'm going to put parentheses, right? Parentheses. You're going to learn more than you ever wanted to learn about the names of punctuation in this class, because in programming, we actually care about punctuation, even more so than in English. In English, if you write an essay and you put the wrong punctuation, only your teacher's going to know. In programming, your code won't work. So it's a difference. So inside the parentheses, I'm going to put quotes. They can be double quotes or single quotes, okay? Doesn't matter right now. I prefer double. And I'm going to type the words, hello world. Now, this is a traditional programming thing that when you're learning a new programming language, you always start with the most basic thing you can do in that language. The most basic thing you can do in any programming language is make it print something to the screen. So we're going to print hello world. So now I've got a one-line, fully functional program here. Now I'm going to run it. When you run your code, you're asking Python to follow the instructions that you've left it. So to run it, I can either right click and choose run A1, or I can choose current file from this menu and click the run button, which is like the little play arrow. So now what you'll see is the product of what I just did. The first line right here that I've highlighted in blue is the location of that script of a1.py. It tells you where it is on my computer. So it's telling you what program it's running. Next, below that, it will show you the product of what I told it to do. I told it to print this, so that's what it's done. So if I change that to hello Bill and run it, it'll say hello Bill. So exciting. So the last thing it's going to do is when it's done running, when it's done executing that code or following your instructions, it's going to give you a status message. And it says process finished with exit code 0. What that means is the program ran and there weren't any errors. That's what you always want at the end. So if I leave out the punctuation, let's just say I leave out one of my double quotes, because that hello Bill has to have double quotes on both sides. If I leave one out, you can see a couple things right away that happen, right? Or one thing in particular, you can see the red underline. If you see a red underline in your code, what that means is PyCharm is predicting that when you run this code, you're going to get an error. So that's not an error by itself. That's PyCharm saying, looks like this is going to be problematic. So that's your first clue. That helps you later on if you're trying to debug your code or figure out what's wrong with your code. Looking for those red underlines is always a good place to start. Now, if I run this anyway, then I get an actual error. And I know I get an actual error because I get all that red stuff. Okay, so the first thing it says is it says the file that contains the error, a1.py. Then below that, it says the line where the error is. And then finally, it says exactly what kind of error is. I want you to pay attention to those. Those error messages tell you what kind of error you're getting. And therefore, it tells you something about how you can fix those. So when you send me a screenshot of your code, if you can fit the code and the error in the screenshot, that's super helpful. Because I'm going to look at this, I'm going to say, syntax error, unterminated string literal. What does that mean? That means I had the beginning quotes, but not the end. Unterminated means I didn't finish the quotes. It makes sense if you think about it a little bit or if you kind of know what it is, but you're going to get used to seeing those. And there are dozens of different error types. But those messages tell you stuff. And look, at line 1 tells me what line the error's on. So all of that helps me figure out what's going on with my code. So if you pay attention to the error messages, it will help you learn faster. It'll help you get your programs done faster. So that's all important. So this is assignment 1. This is what you have to turn in. So how do you turn it in? Okay, how do you turn this in? What I do is I like to take this and if you open up Canvas to the assignment, right, I can say start assignment. This is what I do when I'm ready to turn it in. And it scrolls me down to the end here where it says drag a file here. And what I can do if I want, this is kind of a, let's get that out of the way. This is kind of an easy way to do it, is if I have my PyCharm window kind of open but pulled a little bit to the side here like this, I can take A1 and I can drag it straight from PyCharm into Canvas. And see here, it says a1.py. After I have that, all I have to do is hit submit assignment. And if I do it right, what happens in Canvas is this little confetti. And then up at the top right hand corner, it says submitted. It says when I submitted it, and it says the name of the file. Okay. Now, some of you are the paranoid type. It's okay. I understand I'm married to a person who would do this every single week, right? So what my wife would do is when she submits the assignment, what she would do is she would click download a1.py because she would be like, what if it's not the right thing, right? Some of you can relate to that. So you download it and you save it in your downloads folder, your desktop or whatever. And then you're like, I'm going to double click it to see if it runs. And what it does is it's just going to open up a window really quick. Now, my computer is not configured to do that. But the reason it will open up, it'll just do a little flash of a window on your computer, right? You know what I'm talking about. Why is that? Because when you download a Python script and run it on your computer, it's going to run in Python. And the window that it runs in will only stay open while it's running. So it's going to run really quickly and then close the window. And you're like, that doesn't seem right. It's going to freak you out. You're going to email me and be like, I don't know, I submitted something. I don't think it's right. And when I run it, it doesn't do anything except flash a little window and I can't even see what's going on. It's literally saying hello world and then it's closing the window. So don't be paranoid. Trust yourself. Also, remember, if you submit the wrong thing, I'm not going to be like, you failed a class. I'm going to say, this doesn't look right. Could you just submit the right thing? That's it. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. So I won't even make fun of you or anything. So yeah, that's it. Pretty simple. And once you've done that, you've accomplished the first thing in the class, and you met the first hard deadline.